In the town of Dunmore, where every rooftop was dipped a different shade by the dye mill on the hill, there lived a boy named Milo who did not exactly see colors the way everyone else did. He tasted them. Nobody in his family understood quite how it worked, least of all Milo, but ever since he could remember, colors had arrived on his tongue instead of only in his eyes, as ordinary to him as the sound of his own name. Red tasted of warm cinnamon on the back of his tongue. Blue tasted cool, like the first sip of water after running. Yellow was bright and a little sour, like biting into a fresh lemon rind. Green tasted of crushed mint leaves, purple of ripe plums, and grey, ordinary grey, tasted of almost nothing at all, which was exactly why Milo had never much cared for grey days, and exactly why what happened next troubled him so deeply. Every morning before school, Milo walked the long way to the dye mill on the hill, just to stand at the doorway and let the colors wash over his tongue, indigo and saffron and rose, before the ordinary flavors of the schoolyard swallowed up his whole day.
This batch is definitely more orange than yesterday's, Petra. I can taste the extra cinnamon in it already.
You have the strangest gift I have ever seen in an apprentice, Milo, and I have trained 12 of them. Most of us just squint at the vats and hope for the best.
Squinting never told anyone the truth about a color. You have to taste it properly to know what it really is underneath.
Petra ran the dye mill, a tall wooden building full of steaming vats where wool and cotton were dipped and soaked until they came out in every color Dunmore loved to wear, from the deep purple of the mayor's cloak to the soft green of the schoolhouse shutters. It was on an ordinary Tuesday, sorting freshly dipped wool into baskets by shade, that Milo first noticed something was not quite right, though at the time it seemed like nothing more than a passing curiosity.
Petra, why does the sky over the mill pond taste like nothing at all today? It should taste like blue, at least a little.
Now that you mention it, that patch of sky does look a touch washed out. I thought it was just morning haze.
By afternoon, the mayor's purple cloak had faded to a dull grey smudge, and by evening, the schoolhouse shutters had lost their green entirely, hanging pale and colourless against the wall like something forgotten in the rain for 100 years. Milo walked home past the market square, and everywhere he looked, patches of the town were going the same flat, tasteless grey, spreading slowly like spilled milk across a table, and no one else seemed to notice it happening quite as quickly as he could taste it.
It tastes like nothing. Like the world forgot how to have any flavor at all.
In the square, the baker's red awning had gone the color of old newspaper, and 2 children stood staring up at it, tugging their mother's sleeve and asking why it looked so sad and tired all of a sudden.
I have run this mill for 20 years, Milo, and cloth simply does not fade overnight like this, not without wind, not without sun, not without some reason we cannot yet see.
I am going to find out what that reason is, Petra, even if I have to sit up all night watching the vats to do it.
That night, unable to sleep, Milo crept back to the dye mill to check on the vats, and found a small creature perched on the rim of the indigo vat, licking its thin grey pores with an expression of great satisfaction. It was shaped something like a fox and something like a puff of smoke, with fur that shifted and drifted at the edges instead of holding still, and eyes the color of an overcast sky.
Who, or what, exactly, are you? And why is my dye vat suddenly the color of dishwater?
I am a Hugh Whist, small one, and I am simply doing what Hugh Whists do. We drink color the way you drink soup, and this town, if you will forgive me saying so, has been positively delicious.
You cannot just drink up an entire town's colors. People need those. The mayor needs his cloak, the schoolhouse needs its shutters.
Need is a strong word for cloth dye. But I will tell you a secret, since you seem the sort who tastes things properly instead of just looking at them. I did not come here on purpose. I was chased here.
Are you the reason the schoolhouse shutters lost every bit of their green? Because a great many children are going to be very unhappy about that come morning.
I may have passed that way on Tuesday. Green is rather difficult to resist, if I am being perfectly truthful with you. It tastes faintly of springtime, even weeks after the actual spring has gone.
Milo sat down on an overturned dye barrel, careful not to spook the strange drifting creature, and asked the only question that seemed to matter.
Chased by what? What could possibly chase something like you?
A cousin of mine, a wisp who grew greedy and forgot that a little color sipped here and there does no harm, but color drunk all the way down leaves nothing behind at all. She has been hunting me for turning her away from 3 towns already, and I have been running, feeding as I go, without much caring where I feed.
So you have been draining Dunmore by accident, while you hide from someone worse.
That is a fair way of putting it, though I admit it does not make me sound very heroic.
Why can you not just ask towns for a little color, instead of taking it? Petra would probably have poured you a whole bowl of leftover dye if you had only knocked politely.
Wisps are not exactly welcomed with open doors, small one. Most towns see a gray shape draining their color and reach for brooms and torches long before they think to ask what we actually need. It is easier to hide and feed quickly than to explain and be chased anyway.
That does sound lonely. Always running, never getting to properly taste anything before you have to move on again.
Lonelier than you might think. I have not tasted a color slowly, the way you seem to, in longer than I can remember.
Milo thought of Petra's fading vats, and the mayor's ruined cloak, and the schoolhouse shutters gone the color of old bone, and he understood that scolding this strange creature would fix nothing at all.
What if you did not have to keep running, or keep feeding on things people need? What if there was somewhere you could eat all the color you wanted, and nobody would miss it?
Such a place would have to be very colorful indeed, and very much unwanted, which sounds to me like something that does not exist.
But Milo, tasting the problem the way he tasted everything else, realized he knew exactly such a place. Behind the mill stood the scrapyard, heaped with old, faded, discarded dye rags that Petra threw out every season, too worn and blotchy to sell, yet still holding the ghost of every color the mill had ever made.
The rag heap behind the mill. Nobody wants those old scraps. They just sit there fading anyway. You could eat there forever and never take a single color anyone actually needs.
The Hugh Wisp drifted over to the mill window and peered down at the mountain of forgotten fabric, sniffing the air the way a hungry creature sniffs a kitchen.
Oh, that is glorious. Faded, unwanted, and absolutely soaked in old color. I could feast there for 100 years and no one would ever notice.
But you have to promise to only eat there, and never touch a cloak or a shutter or a sky again, even if you get hungry in a hurry.
You have my word, small taster of colors. It is more than a fair trade for a place to finally stop running.
But even as the wisp settled happily onto the rag heap, Milo felt a strange chill roll through the yard, and old Cyrus, the mill's night watchman, came stumbling around the corner, lantern shaking in his hand.
Milo, get back from the fence. There's something out past the gate, something gray and hungry looking, and it is coming this way fast.
Through the mist rolled a second wisp, larger and darker than the first, her fur drained to a colorless smudge, her eyes flat and hungry as an empty plate. She had found her cousin at last.
That is her. That is the cousin I told you about. She will not settle for a rag heap, Milo. She wants everything, all of it, right down to the last thread.
Then we will just have to show her there is more color here than she can possibly finish, and she does not need to take it all tonight.
Milo, whatever plan is forming in that head of yours, form it quickly. That gray shape is nearly at the fence, and I do not fancy finding out what an empty dye mill tastes like.
A larger wisp's pores touched the fence rail, and a thin ribbon of grey crept out from beneath her feet, curling toward the nearest patch of dyed wool stacked by the door, hungry and unhurried, as though certain nothing here could possibly stop her.
She will not stop for kindness alone, Milo. My cousin has been hungry and hunted for far too long. Kindness sounds like a trick to ears that have only ever heard brooms and shouting.
Then we will not just offer her kindness. We will offer her so much color, all at once, that stopping to taste it slowly becomes the only thing that makes any sense at all.
Milo remembered something Petra always said, that color made hastily never held as true a shade as color made with care, and an idea, bright and a little reckless, began to taste like citrus at the back of his tongue.
Petra! We need every dye vat in the mill uncovered, right now, all at once.
Milo, it is the middle of the night, but if you have a reason, I trust it. Cyrus, help me with the lids.
Together they threw open every vat in the mill, and the whole building bloomed with color, indigo and saffron and rose and deep forest green, all steaming into the night air at once, a feast far too enormous and far too rich for any one greedy creature to finish in a single sitting. Steam curled out through every window in ribbons of violet and gold, and for a moment the whole mill looked less like a building and more like something alive, breathing color out into the dark like a great slow-waking creature of its own.
In 20 years I have never seen this mill look like that. Whatever is happening, Milo, it is working.
A larger wisp pours at the fence, drawn by the overwhelming wave of color, sniffing hungrily but hesitating, the way anyone hesitates at a table piled far higher than they expected.
Cousin, you do not have to take it all in one bite. Nobody is chasing you away this time. Come taste slowly, and I will show you the rag heap, where there is more than enough for the both of us, always.
A larger wisp's flat, hungry eyes softened, just slightly, and for the first time in a very long chase, she lowered her shoulders and simply breathed in the color instead of devouring it, tasting rather than draining, the way her smaller cousin had learned to do. Her fur, which had been the color of a storm cloud all night, began to warm at the edges, taking on the faintest blush of rose, as though tasting slowly had reminded her that color could be gentle as well as delicious.
There now, cousin. Was that so terrible? Nothing chasing you, nothing to steal, only good color offered freely, and more of it waiting for you tomorrow besides.
See? There was always enough. You just never had anywhere safe to stop and taste it properly.
By morning, the mayor's cloak had deepened back to its rich familiar purple, the schoolhouse shutters had blushed green again, and the sky over the mill pond tasted, once more, exactly the way blue was supposed to taste, cool and clean as the first sip after running.
I do not entirely understand what happened here last night, Milo, but this mill has never smelled so wonderfully alive.
Let us just say Dunmer made 2 new friends who happen to enjoy old rags rather a lot.
In 40 years on this watch I have seen strange things, but never a boy who talked to town's colors back home again with nothing but taste and a good idea.
News of the 2 wisps spread through Dunmore by breakfast, and rather than reaching for brooms, the townsfolk began quietly setting out their own worn, faded scraps beside the rag heap each evening, a small offering left without needing to be asked twice.
In all my years of running, small taster of colors, I never once imagined a town that would leave gifts out for us instead of chasing us off with lanterns.
That is what happens when somebody finally stops to taste things properly, instead of just looking and being afraid.
A lesson worth more than any color this mill has ever mixed, I would say. Perhaps the whole town owes you a taste of that lesson too, Milo.
From that day on, two soft grey shapes could sometimes be seen drifting lazily over the rag heap at dusk, never touching a single cloak or shutter, perfectly content with more colour than they could ever finish. Petra offered Milo the title of head apprentice that very week, though he privately suspected his real title, taster of colours and maker of unlikely friendships, suited him rather better. Even the schoolyard noticed the difference. Teachers said the whole town seemed to sit a little brighter that spring, though none of them could have said exactly why, and Milo never quite found the words to explain it properly either. Some nights, if he listened closely from his bedroom window, Milo swore he could hear two soft creatures purring contentedly over the rag heap, and he would smile into his pillow, tasting the whole day over again before he finally drifted off. Milo walked home that evening with the whole town tasting, once again, like cinnamon and lemon rind and cool clear water. Good night, Milo. Good night, Dunmore. May your dreams tonight come in every color you can imagine, and taste of nothing but sweetness.